We're now live. You have to see if you can hear us, Pinch. Is there any audio coming through?
Yeah, it's just
Cool. Is it loud enough? Yeah. So we're just, if you're watching on Periscope, we're just checking out how the audio works. I do believe this is the first time someone's attempted to use a radio mic with Periscope. So it's because we're disruptive in that.
In line with the show.
Great. Cool. I'm going to carry on watching Twitter, see what's going on. Just an introduction. My name's Dan. I work for a small business competition called The Pitch. We're joined in, I say the studio, it's actually a conference room in SIFT Media Towers, or Pitch HQ, by the Pitch champion last year, and Tom from Audible, which is a new startup from Bath. I don't know if you just want to introduce yourself. Matt, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Matt from Resolver.co.uk, and we were lucky enough to win the Pitch 2015. We are an online complaint resolution service aiming to make complaining simpler for everybody. Tom.
Thanks, Matt. I'm Tom from Audible, as Dan mentioned. I am the CEO and founder of a company which has basically created an app for busy people to save time collecting their coffee and lunch, so customers can order and pay in advance to avoid waiting around their queue and earn loyalty rewards on their smartphone. We're growing. We started in Bath. We're now growing into Bristol, where we currently reside. I'm excited to sort of share some of my thoughts on our current business and where we're taking it going forward.
Good stuff. Thanks very much. Just a little bit about The Pitch for those who don't know what it is. It's a small business competition that's run from Bristol. Applications are open now at www.thepitch.uk, but don't go there now because we're periscoping. Just save it for half an hour. Today we'll be talking about how to be, not how to be, but what being a digitally disruptive business means, and some of the things around that. And maybe if you're running a business or running a startup, should you be being disruptive if you're not? And how you can do that with technologies such as social media and, hey, Periscope, who knows. To kick things off then, do you consider your businesses disruptive and why? Matt, what do you reckon?
Well, absolutely. I think we are a disruptive business. One of the ways you can tell you're a disruptive business is when people can't pigeonhole you. For the first 18 months, 2 years of Resolver, that's basically the whole of Resolver's existence. It's a constant battle to explain to people exactly where you are. So you talk to companies, or you talk to regulators, or you talk to government departments, and they say, "Oh, so you're a claims management company?" No, we're not. "Oh, so you're like a CRM, customer service management system?" No, we're not. We are something new, something unique, and we are providing something that wasn't provided for before, i.e. we allow a user to take control when they have a customer service issue with whatever company it is. And the key point is it's the same process, it's the same method, it's the same place, whether you're raising a complaint with KFC or whether you've got...
Which I do frequently.
And rightly so, you should use Resolver to do so. Or whether it's a long-running issue with your energy company.
Cool.
So it's other people telling you you're disruptive that lets you know you're disruptive.
And Tom, just kind of in the early stages of launching a business, would you consider yourself disruptive already, or are you going to grow into it?
Well, we like to be disruptive from the start. I think we would, definitely. The way we consider ourselves disruptive may be slightly different because, we're a different business, so we make it up. But we are really changing people's behaviours in the ordering process. And, customers order from places every day. You know, we're starting in cafes and coffee shops, but you know, restaurants, theatres, festivals, bars. There's loads of different circumstances where you would be ordering, and it used to be you'd pay in, you know, cash. You used to pay in check, or now credit card, debit cards, contactless, mobiles, and the next evolution of that. And we consider ourselves as pioneering the mobile payment element in a lot of these ordering processes, and adding value to that you know, process. And people don't know that they can do that yet. This is part of our challenge, is to make people aware of it and change their behaviours. So yeah, I think we are really disrupting that part of the market and how people pay. Yeah, and that's pretty much how I think we're disruptive.
Cool.
There's no limits, you see. We just push people out of the way.
Really disruptive.
Yeah.
And we're doing this Periscope as well, as part of the 100 Days of Digital with Small Business Saturday, which is all about getting people and business people and startups and entrepreneurs to upskill themselves in digital. Why do you think that digital businesses particularly lend themselves to being disruptive? What advantages do they have?
Well, scalability is obviously much easier when you don't have large amounts of overheads, when you don't have enormous amounts of equipment. But I think it's also it's a mindset. So, for example, a traditional way of selling a service to a company might be to, and this is perhaps a cynical thing to do, is to sell a piece of software to an individual firm and basically milk that as much as you can, saying all the while that, oh, we're providing a bespoke service, mm-hmm. which is fine as far as it goes, but it's very short-sighted. If you try and build something that is new, that is scalable, that is repeatable, and yet that works equally well for everybody, then you're working. You can only do that with a fully digital business.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's the key point, really, is the fact that it's new. You know, whilst there can be non-digital new companies, I think most people agree that technology is at the heart of most innovations these days. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, pioneering digital methods and new digital technologies as they evolve is kind of inherent in the disruptive nature of it, because, you know, by definition, disruptive is, you know, overhauling existing industries. So I think, you know, as new technologies emerge, it's the people who can harness them and embrace them are the ones that are creating the disruptive businesses. So yeah, going back to your point, I think it is really important that it comes from a digital, at least the core of a digital business. You know, for us, we're still going into existing places, existing businesses. So there is like a physical digital bridge, and that's the same with some other digital businesses, is there is a physical presence of them as well. But they've got to have digital at the core and have innovation at the core, which is in line with technology. So yeah, I think it's really important.
Cool. Do you think that people maybe who wouldn't have started businesses 5-10 years ago are now having access to things, online learning, and seeing that starting a digital business, there's a lower barrier to entry? Do you think that's leading to an increase of more people starting companies and more kind of those gaps where maybe larger businesses would have carried on and dominated the market? Kind of smaller businesses are coming in then because they can learn, they can have those skills, and the barrier to entry is lower.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you know, I think technology itself is changing so rapidly these days that it's the small businesses that are keeping on top of it much better than the larger ones. And you know, we are actively using the newest software, the newest tools to run the business. You know, we keep up to date with what's going on in technology as general. So I think it's really important to know what other companies are doing, mm-hmm. as they change, and then learn from them. But yeah, the barriers to entry now for starting a technology company are very low. You can learn how to do it quite easily, and I think it should stem from a passion of yours that you believe in. That I think you can see the commercial benefit from it, and then there's loads of resources out there to then learn about that. I mean, something I think I do quite well is learn from the resources, the internet.
Yeah.
Probably quite sad that I do so much, but there's loads of resources out there that I use, mainly audiobooks and online publications and stuff that are just great for learning how to run a business, and really accessible in loads of different mediums. So yeah, I think it's quite easy, and there's no reason why people shouldn't be able to give it a go these days. We started our company from very little capital, so yeah, no, I think it's definitely do it. And if anyone's watching, make sure you give it a go. There's no time like the present.
I think Tom's absolutely right. It's never been easier to create the reality of an idea without any infrastructure at all. I mean, obviously, as things grow, you end up having to buy in more sophisticated tools, more sophisticated structures. But to start with, all you need is a Google Drive. All you need is some shared documents. You don't even need a computer.
It's all free these days.
It's all free. It's all free. It's all online. Don't need Microsoft Office 365. Just freeware. And then as you grow the business. I think absolutely, as you say, you use online resources. You try new tools. If this doesn't work, you go and see what's out there. What's trending? What's exciting? And there's lots of people chatting about it in online communities, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's also just dipping your toe in, loads of different platforms and different sources of information and seeing what works for you. Because sometimes it can be overwhelming, I think.
Yeah.
You get, you've got loads of different pieces of information coming at you, and it's like, I think finding the key ones is quite important. That's what we've really think about, is not overwhelming ourselves with the raft of free. All of them are pretty good for different situations, but it's like, what do we actually need, and then what information do we need, and then learning from those, I think, is important.
I think another part of that is not being committed to a certain tool, and always being aware that you can always swap out, change your customer service tool, change your cloud-based storage, anything. You can just switch if something's not working. Try something else.
So that's really important as well, just because you've got to stay up to date with the newer stuff. I think as a digital disrupting business, as I said earlier, we try and keep up to date with the latest technology to run the business and integrate with our platform. And it's important to keep on top of that, as you say, and not be too committed, because it is easy to kind of overcommit to a platform and build everything, especially from a technology development point of view, and you're like, oh crap, we're committed to this tool for life, and then as soon as you start to grow, the prices start going through the roof, and you're like, so maybe think about that before you start. But normally it's worth it, because it's like a good problem to have. As you grow, it costs you more, but so be it.
One of the taboos we talked about, myself and you, the other day, was growing a business and then going in a completely different direction, maybe even changing your idea completely. Do you think that's something that goes on a lot more now? People are less afraid of kind of businesses failing because it's just an idea. It's quickly scalable because it's digital, and they can move on and do something that is, quantify it with the digital results and keep building the right idea.
Well, you've got to go where the opportunity is. I'm not 100% sure about completely changing your core business, because the idea of what you do should be the seed that sparks everything. But the direction you take, that could change time and again, and the path you take to get to it, and the focus you have at any given time. I know we've changed our focus in various ways that we didn't expect, and that can happen almost on a monthly basis. As long as you never lose sight of what the end goal is, how you get there is definitely up for debate.
Yeah, I think that's to put the technical terms to it, it's the keeping the value proposition the same. So you come up with a quite high level value proposition. I mean, for us, it's saving people time in the ordering process. So that's pretty generic. We initially started in restaurants, connecting to tables and ordering from tables. Then we did a market pivot to cafes and coffee shops, and slight technology pivot to ordering ahead functionality rather than in-store ordering. And that was, probably 9 months ago now or so. But ideas change, and both of those situations were still more efficient and more convenient for the customer. But it's different markets, different executions of it. So I think as you say, having the idea should be the core, and I'd really sort of stress identifying problems that are needs. That's quite important. That maybe I would have thought about more starting my own digital business. Is like, okay, what are the needs of our potential customers? Because a lot of people I sort of talk to just build something that's cool, but actually there's no real need for it or application for it. And it's easy with technology to build something cool that you think is going to be an awesome platform that everyone's going to use, but actually it's finding the people with the problem and the needs. So you start with that, I would say, rather than the idea.
So my cheese toasty business, cheesetheday.co.uk, were you saying that's not viable?
Well, everyone needs cheese toasties, come on.
You can't start with a pun.
That's what I do. That's what I wanted to do.
I mean, puns are great, don't get me wrong, but
start businesses based on puns is my dream.
They'll catch on.
I think actually something as an aside to that as well is something that's happened to us to change our direction a little bit is the change of like policy. Legislative changes can affect what you do. In our case, it's not very sexy, but there's been quite a lot of changes last October to do with the Consumer Rights Act and to do with alternative dispute resolution, so offering effectively an arbitration platform. And as that legislation was coming through, we realised that what Resolver was the bones of that arbitration platform. So we're now in the middle of building this platform that we call Decider. We've launched the first product as a pilot with Traffic Penalty Tribunal in Brighton and Hove, which is an online way to appeal parking tickets, and that will be rolled out across councils in England and Wales over the next 12 months or so. But obviously that wouldn't have happened if our idea hadn't been sparked by the changes in the ADR regulations. So you've definitely got to keep an eye out for what's kind of happening in government policy.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's not that big of a deal. But I know some other companies, like Uber and some other digital disruptors, they're all towing the line with authorities and government regulations and all this stuff. Well, even actually going over the line in some cases. But I think that's kind of inherent with the digital disruptive nature. It's like as new things, opportunities emerge, it's taking advantage of them quickly.
You've got to grab them.
Can't say we do that, but wish we could.
You mentioned Uber there. What do you think are who are the big hitters that you've seen and thought, the companies that you go, that is it? Those ones, the ones that are always the most disruptive are the ones that you go, that is some idea. I wish I thought of that idea. Or can you come up with a core idea and just tweak it slightly to become disruptive?
I don't know. At the moment, I'm a bit obsessed with Citymapper.
Okay, yeah.
I just think what they do is amazing, and I think maybe it's a core idea that stays the same, but they've got like a layer of onions around it, or an onion, because it's just layer after layer of interesting, exciting things that they add to it. Like the thing that wowed me whenever they brought it out, I think it was last summer, when you're on a tube station platform in London, it tells you what the best end is given your following journey. That's just little things like that. They've got a really good they've got a great basic idea, but they apply interesting lateral thinking to it, kind of at every stage. Yeah, and I find that really exciting.
Cool. Tom, what's your favourite? Favourite bit?
Well, I have to probably go down the Uber route. As it is, yeah, I shouldn't. I think since we are talking about digital disruptors, I've done a lot of research into them for a number of reasons, and they are really disrupting a taxi industry in loads of, on a global scale.
Yeah.
So I think, in the context of this conversation, they're the most aggressive disruptors of an industry, in my opinion. And, considering they have a physical application as well, like people have to be driving cars. It's not just platform like Snapchat or something like that. It's it's the link between the physical and the digital elements of the business is what really kind of interests me, and it's how they align the supply and the demand of that, and something that we are kind of doing, but we've got supply for our customers and demand of the venues that we have on board, and it's that's what I find really interesting, is how companies do all of that stuff. Similar like Deliveroo are something probably much more in line with what we're trying to do, is that completely overhauling how people order from their favourite restaurants, and even though they don't have to change many people's behaviour because people are already ordering to their homes, like Just Eat did the work for them, they're still convincing awesome restaurants and food outlets to deliver. So I think that's like a massive shift in the industry that is being very disruptive. So they're probably the ones that I've kind of maybe aspire to be, but at least learn from in this kind of context. I think also Stripe as well. We use Stripe, the payment provider. They're really cool. Relatively new, and just hit a massive scale by realising the market opportunity of mobile payments. And we use them, and they're great service, great customer experience. Although they could use a call centre service. If Stripe, you're listening, that would be my one. Maybe I'll use your platform. And
you should do.
Complain to Stripe.
I'd have to put Stripe on the system. We can do that.
Come on, that would be my only criticism of Stripe. But I think they are, they're seeing the trends of technology and adapting to them. I think that's really, really important for digital business.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, with kind of especially Audible, it's from a user experience. There's almost no distinction apart from kind of follow account of what is a new disruptive business and what has been established. If you've set the branding up correctly and have the website, which you guys do, it's indistinguishable from something that's just launched to something that's been out 6 years. It's kind of, if the idea's there, then you're on a kind of almost a level playing field with other people, which is incredible. Do you think consumers are more inclined to try new businesses like yourselves, perhaps? Do you think they're more receptive to these new digital businesses that have popped up instead of kind of big brand names or affiliated big brand names?
Well, it's interesting what Dan said about Audible feeling like it's been there. It feels like it's an idea that sort of ought to have existed before. And I don't know whether that's because we are more receptive or whether because it's just the right idea. But I think people are used to upgrading software, upgrading devices. People are used to the new a lot more, and I think they're less prepared more prepared to try something new, because there's less of a barrier to it. They're not going to stick to what they know, as might have happened, like 2-3 generations previously. They'll always stick with the same brand of car or what have you.
Yeah, change is happening all the time, and I think you're right. People are much more susceptible to change nowadays, and for us, a lot of these kind of other digital disruptors, maybe the bigger players, have done a lot of the legwork in terms of that. People are now, I said Deliveroo earlier and Stripe, they're making people feel confident using mobiles for payments, which even a couple of years ago people wouldn't have put their credit card details on an app.
Yeah.
So stuff like that you kind of take for granted, but actually is integral to our business, and many other similar examples are probably applicable to other businesses. I think people are much more willing to adopt new technologies. There was something else I was going to say, but I've forgotten now. What was the question again? Is for people adopting,
to try something, I guess. But I also wanted to
come back to me.
kind of touch on kind like social media, I guess, and social communities, especially with Kickstarter and crowdfunding platforms, that people seem to be using them not only to kind of like generate funds, but also gain that audience and that loyal user base. So you have, like, by the time you go to market with your product, it's already kind of, you've already got that voice there. Do you think kind of the virality of social media and how ideas spread and people share ideas, how do you think that helps disruptive businesses if you can get that right?
Yeah, I think, it's really helpful. It goes hand in hand with the digital disruptive business. That's what you're trying to achieve, is people using something in a digital manner. For us, it's mobile. So when people see things on their smartphones in the format of social media platforms, what they're surfing on their mobiles, that's where we want to be marketing to, so that people can quite easily just jump and download the app, or at least it shows they're a mobile user, which is most people these days. But that's kind of that's the eyeballs you want to be reaching, and it's something that we're really focusing on, is blogging and Twitter and Facebook and all of those kind of social media channels that are really important to at least have a strong presence on, I think. Something that we're trying to do better, and put more resources to. And I think, as you say, if you get it right, it can explode. And with ours is slightly less scalable than yours in terms of, I don't know, one spark and explosion could make sure everyone uses it. Like, ours is still a bit
Potentially.
You have to have the venues on board, so it's a bit more difficult to have that kind of generic global explosion.
I guess, certain, maybe delivery is a good example, like ways around that. You can still have kind of people on board with the idea and, like, do you want this in your area? For sure. Yeah,
exactly. And it's getting that demand, that buzz up is the important thing. So people are like itching for it to come to your area, and then when it hits, it just, I think it's that, like, it's hitting in a lot of different angles at the same time as well. For us, we try and sort of align our physical marketing to our social media marketing to just create buzz. Because word of mouth is ultimately our main marketing method that we want to stimulate, and that happens online. Like, word of mouth is a big thing, obviously, with social media. But it's just, creating that, like, buzz where people are talking about it, either online but also face to face. We shouldn't forget about that. That's really important for us to grow and reach new customers, and something that we're really focusing on at the moment.
I think
still haven't cracked it yet.
I think what's interesting for us is that, all the social media, the word of mouth propagation of marketing is super important. But I think for us, the product working is the absolute key, because if one user has a bad experience and we don't, so it can happen, but for us the important thing is how you react to that. Yeah, well, absolutely, and you can complain to us using our system. It's we would be quite hypocritical if we didn't allow that. But it's really, really important to us that we hear anybody who has a bad experience, and we turn that bad experience into a great experience. And anybody who has a great experience is a what's the word? I think the word is maven. They go out and they tell other people about what you've done, and it's kind of done. But it all comes from the product.
Brand Sherpas.
Brand Sherpas.
Coining that phrase right now.
But if your product isn't right, then you can't generate that buzz.
Yeah, I think, and that's the general thinking these days with startups, especially in the technology space, is just get that customer experience right, and then hopefully the rest will follow. And that's something that we're trying to do. And you should, something that, even though we are growing, we're almost not going as fast as we could, just to make sure that we don't overstretch ourselves and not deliver on our customer experience. And I think that's something is always really interesting at the startup stage. Some advice people have given me, which has been actually, you need to get your unit economics right for us, which is, one coffee shop, for example, that works, and we know how it works and why it works, is more important and investable than like having a lot that don't work. So it's that making sure that customer experience is right, and then people will start talking about it, as you say, be it digitally. And I think as long as you kind of create a platform for them to do it digitally, so it's not like they're feeling weird by it and you're encouraging it, then people will start to do it. We have people tweet, our coffee cup designs, all of this stuff, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of, augmenting the experience digitally, I think, is the important thing.
Absolutely.
Great, right. I think we're going to leave it there for today. Not growing too fast. Don't want to be overbearing, but
Body stretch me.
really stretch. I've also run out of questions, so
You've
no,
got
I'm
a
only
coffee
kidding.
delivery to make, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but thanks guys very much for popping by, and you can check
That's a
out
pleasure.
Audible and the Resolver. We'll have all the details on the pitch.uk. If you're watching this, you already know that, so that's fine. They'll be on the pitch site, www.thepitch.uk, with applications open for the pitch till May the 25th. It's free to enter, it takes about 20 minutes. Go do it. Thanks very much. Now there is the awkward walk while I have to walk to the camera to turn it off because it's so professional.
Distract me.
Yeah, just